Congratulations on being selected to moderate or chair a session at this year's CHEST meeting. It's an extraordinary opportunity to get more involved in the organization, and it's very important for you to help our learners get more out of the meeting. This is going to be a brief presentation talking about your responsibilities and how to make it an optimal session, both for you and for your learners. First thing, there are two different types of sessions I want to introduce you to, and they're going to have slightly different recommendations. The first group will be the plenary sessions, including panel discussions, pro-con debates, and case-based discussions. At the end, we'll talk a little bit about moderating an oral presentation session. For the first group, the first key piece is to prepare. This is not something you want to show up to at the meeting and try to get right on the fly. I strongly recommend you contact all the speakers in your sessions at least 2 months, maybe even 3 months in advance. Not just to say hello, although that's a lovely thing to do, but to get them in touch with each other. You need to make sure each person on your agenda has a clear sense of two things. One, what's the scope that you want them to cover in the session? Not too broad, not too narrow, just right. Two, exactly how much time do they have to give that presentation? And you should make sure that you include time for questions and answers. So if somebody's slotted for 15 minutes, but you as moderator or chair really want at least a couple of minutes for Q&A, make sure you let your speaker know that they only have 12 or 13 minutes for that presentation. Once that conversation is done, have them continue to communicate with each other just to make sure that they are presenting something that allows for the whole session to flow nicely. A little overlap between two sessions, particularly at a handoff, is great. Too much overlap, though, and the audience gets bored. So that's your pre-work. What do you do at the meeting itself? Start on time. Attendees love when things start on time and get a little agitated when something's more than even a minute late. So please make every effort to start on time. I recommend outlining the session. It's okay to have a couple of slides going over it with a list of your speakers and their presentations, but this isn't necessary. But make sure that everybody has a sense of exactly how you're intending the session to flow. Critical is to keep speakers on time. And I'm super sensitive to the fact that it's hard to do when a world's expert's up on the stage and you don't feel like you can interrupt him or her. You need to do it. What I often find is that having a pre-planned method for doing it is important. So I'll let my speakers know in advance, hey, I'm going to have a small sheet of paper. I don't want to embarrass you, but that sheet of paper is going to have 2 minutes on it. When you've got 2 minutes left, I'm going to show you that sheet of paper. When you've got 1 minute left, I'm going to show you that sheet of paper. When you've got 0, I'm really going to have to interrupt you. So just keep them in the loop. Let them know in advance what your expectations are. That'll help go a long way to make sure they don't feel embarrassed and you don't feel embarrassed by interrupting them. If there are questions and answers, and that's part of your session, you need to be an aggressive triager of that. What do I mean by that? Don't let a question take 30 to 60 seconds to ask. You really want to get your attendees to get in and out in terms of that question because the audience will get bored. The same is true of directing that question to the right person. If you hear somebody asking a question that might be relevant to the next speaker, have them hold that question until after the next speaker. If you're taking questions at the end of a long session, you can triage that question. This would be best for speaker B. This would be best for speaker C. But make sure the responses also stay fairly brief. And if there's a question that you think is really not relevant to the session at all, it's absolutely fine to parking lot that. Hey, that's a great question, Dr. So-and-so. You know, I think that might be a little bit more in-depth than we have time for during the session. How about we take a chance to talk about that when we're done, and we'll spend a few minutes afterwards. Audience appreciates that. For abstract and case report oral presentations, there is some similar work you have to do before you get to the meeting. First thing I recommend is taking a good read of each of the specific presentations that's going to occur during your session. If you need to do some background reading to make sure you have a good understanding of the topic, please spend a little time doing it. You'll be a much better moderator. In addition, try to develop at least one question for each of these oral presentations that's going to occur. That way you can jump in with a question in case your audience is a little slow to do so or doesn't have any questions they want to ask. At the meeting itself, the rules are pretty much the same. You want to start on time so you can end on time. If you need to interrupt speakers, you can do so, but only do it if they're running long. Much better to let them run right to time and then just end them there, but you may have to cut off questions if that case happens. Again, congratulations for being selected to chair or moderate a session. We're looking forward to having you join us at CHEST. If you do have any questions, a couple ways to reach us, but the best is with our friend, Teresa Rodriguez at CHEST.